Okay, this will be our 50-50 setup. So each circuit has 3 stations. You work for 50 seconds through each one. Then you do a second round through each. Then you take a 50-second break and then move to the next circuit. So it's 50-50-50, and then right into that first one again, 50-50-50, then rest for 50 seconds. For equipment that you'll need for this one, it's going to be pretty much everything that we have used. You'll want some sliders. You'll want a mini band for 1 or 2 different ones. You'll want a bench or a couch or a chair for a few different things, split squats, glute bridges. And then different weights. You'll use weights for a few different ones. So if you have an assortment, like heavier objects, lighter objects, that's great. Otherwise, if you just have 1 or 2 things, just keep those nearby, and then you can decide which ones you want to use. And then one that we haven't used before is you'll want some kind of elevated object that's solid. We're going to use a foam roll today, but if you have like a book or a couple books or a pot or a pan, something you can put weight on, because we're going to have push-ups, or you've got one hand elevated. So keep that in mind for equipment. So we'll get into the first circuit here. First one's going to be a pillar push-up, so no gear for that one. You're just going to be in plank position going up and down. You'll need your light dumbbells, so single leg front side raises. And then last one's going to be a crossover crunch, so no gear for that one. So we'll get started in about 10 seconds here with the pillar push-up, 50 seconds of each station.
Alright guys, here we go from that plank position, up on the right side, up on the left side. If you want to switch each repetition, you can. If you'd prefer to do a 50-second bout following one movement pattern, that's fine as well. Make sure the core stays tight, glutes stay tight, try to keep control of the hip bones, 30 seconds out. And this could always be done from your knees if you wanted to or needed to. As Ben said, it's a 50-50-50 format, so there's no rest in between exercises, at least for the first 3. The next thing is going to be that fairly light single leg front and side raise. So in about 5 seconds, grab some lighter objects. I'd say up towards maybe 8 pounds for the stronger ones, somewhere between 3 and 5 for most everybody though, but nice tall knee, about hip height. And this is more about a smooth movement throughout than initiating really hard. So don't get those bells to float. Think about coming up at the same speed, down nice and slow. We'll spend 50 seconds on one leg. And then if you have any shoulder issues and one of these irritates you or bug your shoulder, feel free just to stay in the one pattern. So if the front raise feels better, just stay front raise throughout. If the side raise feels better, that's fine as well. 10 seconds, and then we're into a cross crunch, which will be done on your back in 5. On your back here. One foot's going to be over top of the knee, and then opposite elbow to your opposite knee. As you come up, you're trying to stay off of the opposite shoulder, so off of Ben's left shoulder, left elbow. They're coming up at an angle, not rotating onto that shoulder. If you want to increase the effort quite substantially, the right foot would come off the ground. And keep that knee on both sides pretty stationary. Heel stays floating in space. 15 seconds. You could always put the foot back down if you wanted to. After this, we're going to go back into the pillar push-up. So from a plank position, 5 seconds. If you did not switch sides last time, let's make sure we switch sides this time. The lead arm, and then drop the knees if you need to. $20 seconds. 10. After the set on our feet, single arm, front and side raise, single leg, front side raise. 5, switching legs here. Same posture, nice high knee, relatively hip height, and then a slow initiation out front, slow draw to the side. Seconds. If your stability is limiting, you can always put that foot down lightly, or if you have any hip flexor stuff, that foot can be down lightly. In 10 seconds, we'll move to the cross crunch, and then we'll take a 50-second rest period after that. 5. You can see from this side how Ben's shoulder's staying off the ground, the elbow stays off the ground, reaching the elbow up toward the knee, not really moving the knee. And as an alternative, if you needed more, you could always pull a foot off the ground, but this is usually pretty good for most. 20 seconds out. After this, we'll take a long rest period. We'll have 3 new exercises. 10. 3. Nice. 1 down. 3 things coming up is a reverse lunge with a pulse, so we'll drop back, hit 1 pulse, stand tall to a knee tuck. The second thing is a marching plank position, opposite arm off the legs, almost a crawl, but in a plank. And then we'll have an offset push-up, so that pot, pan, or books, whatever you need to be maybe 4 to 6 inches in an offset position. We need that as well. I'm not going to hold any weight in my reverse lunge pulse, but you're welcome to. Just get the step back, pulse. And then you can bring that knee up in front. So it's a little half rep down at the bottom position. And then the knee drive up at the top. Try to stay nice and smooth. Balance is always a good challenge on this one, keeping the weight on that front foot, front leg. If you get too much weight shifted into the back foot and you try to push off that one too hard, the balance definitely gets harder than it needs to be. And then you're using that back leg too much. So 15 seconds to go. Then we'll be down in that plank position next for the marching plank. Last 5. So elbows and toes, try and move opposite arm and foot together, maintaining that plank position. When in doubt, if the hips are up just a tiny bit, that can be helpful to make sure you're not dropping them too low as you get tired here. But good contraction in the abs there. So you're really kind of crunching down so you don't end up arching the low back. 25 to go. And on the way back, you're pushing through your shoulders a little bit more to push you backwards. When you're going forward, you're pushing a little more through your toes. Last 10. And then our last one's going to be those offset push-ups. So you'll be down on the floor still, but you'll grab that object, whatever you're elevating your hand on. And so the idea is that one hand is just going to be a little bit higher than the other. Depending on shoulder issues, you can use a smaller object lower to the ground, or if that still doesn't feel great, just stick to regular push-ups on these. But the idea is that by having that offset position, it's going to load one side a little bit differently than the other. You're still keeping weight on both sides. Make sure whatever object you are using is strong enough, because you are putting some weight in there. 20 seconds to go. Exhale each time you push away from the floor. You can go from toes or knees on this one. Last 10, and then back to that lunge with the pulse. 2, 1. Back to your feet.
are leaning forward into that front leg. So as you step back, you still keep that weight shifted forward. It's the front leg that should be doing just about all of the work on this one. 25 seconds to go. Exhale each time you come up to the top. 12 seconds, and you'll be down into that plank position for the marching plank. Three, two, one. Elbows and toes. If you're going backwards first, it's a little extra push through the shoulders. There's good control on these. Spending more time up off the floor with the opposite elbow and toe is going to make this more challenging. If you take really quick steps, that's going to make it a little bit easier because you're spending more time in the most stable position. So 20 seconds to go. When you're doing those forward ones, you're getting a push through the toes, but always maintaining that good core tension, never sagging down towards the floor. 8 seconds, and then you'll be down to those push-ups again. 2, 1. Okay, now get that object up in the other hand. And if you don't have any object at all, you could always just slide one hand a couple inches higher than the other when you're looking down at them at the floor, 1 or 2 inches above the other. It's another way to offset it. But again, be aware of shoulder positioning. Don't go for too big of an offset where it's going to feel like a lot of strain in the shoulder or the neck. 20 seconds to go. Breathe out as you push up. Last 10, and we're going to get that 50-second break. Good. So take 50 here, and we'll get set up for our next 3 stations. So first one on the next target are speed squats. So just quick body weight squats. Second one is going to be body saws. So you're going to want sliders for this one. You're on your elbows, and you're sliding back and forth there. Third one, you're going to want some dumbbells, probably a medium weight or some whatever objects you have. A medium to heavy weight, depending on how you're feeling. It's a single leg RDL, and then curl up at the top. So speed squats coming up in about 5 seconds.
This one should get the legs warmed up pretty well if they're not already. Reasonable depth and a nice quick acceleration to the top of the rep. Almost feels like you're gonna get off the ground and a jump but stay planted. So the same sort of speed you'd have in a squat jump, but then just don't get off the ground. Arm integration is good. Reaching back to the sit, stand tall, swing the arms forward. A lot of us try to find some tension in our glutes at the top of the rep. This one might be hard because of the speed of the movement, so if you can't get your glutes active or you don't finish with that squeeze at the top, that's okay. Just move quickly, 10 seconds out. The next one's the body saw, so we'll go plank position. You'll need your discs. Feet are gonna be in the discs. From a plank, allow the body to roll back a bit, drag forward, keep the core tight. Just like that marching plank has been cued, we might have our hips maybe 2 inches higher than normal just to allow for a little bit of leeway in the event that we fatigue. You can still stay in a good position. Think about using the abs, definitely some lats as well as you begin that draw back in. Extend as far as you're able to. 10 seconds out, and after this 10 seconds, we'll go into the single leg RDL with curl. You're welcome to switch legs if you want. Each repetition, I think we're gonna stay on one leg for duration. Try to find some stability, lead through the heel, drop the torso, find a stretch, stand tall, knee tuck, finish the curl, a little pause, and then kick back out into it. It's good. "25 seconds out. If you only have a single object, it's probably going to be a bit harder to stabilize through both the RDL and the curl. Just make sure you keep track of which side you're doing. 10 seconds. After this, we'll go back to the speed squats. 5. Same idea, quick reps, lots of arms, lots of legs. And you're just trying not to lock out for too long of a duration at the top. So about as soon as you get there, drop back in. 30 seconds out. Ten, maybe 5 more reps still. 3, 2, body saw. Feet on the discs, plank position. If you get into a uncomfortable position here, you're a bit too extended, drop the knees, reset real quick. You shouldn't feel it in your back. If you're feeling it in your back, you're either not as tight as you should be in your core, or you're reaching out further than you should be. Think about it being similar to that fizz ball rollout we would do in the gym where you're pushing the elbows away. Stay in control. 20 seconds. In 10 seconds, we'll move to the single leg RDL with curl. That'll be our last thing of this series. 5. Grab your bells, switch legs. Stand tall through knee tuck, hit a curl. Final 25 seconds of this series. Perhaps an exhale there at the top. Nice deep breath in. You might hold it for a second, get everything snug. 10. 5. Resting, guys. 50 seconds off. Three things coming up. We have mini skaters. I'm going to take opposite arm, opposite foot, a little pop across the body, a little bit of a reach as well. We'll go into a side plank with reach, so stack on the form, reach under body. We're now going to switch sides, we'll stay on one side. And then the last thing is a pistol squat. I'll use the bench. Maybe I'll use my front heel, at least on one side. We'll see. But first thing will be skaters. 5 seconds.
So just make sure you've got room behind you and off to the sides. You're not going for a ton of distance on this one. This is our more abbreviated range of motion. Sitting back, reaching that back foot behind you, trying not to touch it to the floor. And then reaching the hand to the opposite foot. So these are meant to get the legs going a little bit, get your heart rate up. Find a good rhythm. You are sitting down into it a bit. 20 seconds to go. And then that next one's the side plank with the reach, so you'll be down on the floor. Another 12. jump down onto an elbow. You can always get that bottom knee down to the floor in that 90-degree position, that kickstand position. Otherwise, feet are stacked. You're keeping the hips up high. Get a good reach underneath your body, so it's okay to let the hips rotate a little bit down towards the floor as you turn. And then when you get to the top position, everything's stacked up from the bottom elbow up to the top hand. Hips are facing forward. 15 seconds to go. Last 5. And then we go into that pistol squat, so you need your bench or your couch or your chair. And find the height that works best for you. So you may need to stack up objects, potentially, depending how tall you are, range of motion, strength levels. But you're keeping that heel pushing the floor. You've got a few options for your other foot position. You've got just that hovering position that Kyle's doing right now. You could extend that leg a little bit farther. It's going to be more quad and hip flexor dominant on that side. Or you can even put that foot down on the floor, which would give you a little more stability and a little assistance through that front leg, but you're still trying to use that down foot, down leg to do all the work. So 10 seconds to go. A couple more of these, driving the heel into the floor, squeezing the butt tight as you come up, and then you'll be back to those mini skaters in 2, 1. So still on your feet, side to side, reaching towards the opposite foot. And just think good smooth reps on this one. Try not to fall over. Easier said than done. 25 left. Very soft landing. Try not to make much noise on these. "12 seconds. Then we back down into that side plank on the other elbow. 5. So find the good position. Bottom elbow is directly under the shoulder. Very smooth reps on these. Take your time throughout, especially in that bottom rotation. Feel the obliques a little extra when you get that reach through. And then as you're reaching up towards the ceiling, hips stay high. 25. "10 seconds to go, and there'll be that pistol squat one more time, then we'll take our break. Two. So to the other leg here, you've got those same options for how to position your up foot. And the main focus is that down foot, down leg. So don't think too hard about what's going on with the top one. But you can try different options, see how it feels. If you're really burning out, you can bring that heel down to the floor. 20 seconds, then we'll take our 50-second break. Last 10. 2, 1. Good. Rest 50. Yeah. So this circuit, you'll have an unsupported bent over row. So you're going to want your heaviest weighted object. That's going to be here in this position and then rowing up. You're going to have Conleys, which will be down on the floor. Bring in your opposite elbow to knee. And then you're going to have a squat jump with a floor tap going back and forth. So those will be your 3. The only object you'll need will be the heaviest weight that you have here.
All right, guys, 5 seconds out. We're gonna go from a split stance here. So for rowing, right arm, right leg's back. As Ben said, it is unsupported. If your heaviest object is heavier than you should row with, then don't do that. But for most of us, the heaviest object we have at home will be appropriate. If you've got a weak back, you could always stack the opposite form over that, the front of the knee kind of there, over the quad. So Ben has that demo now. So you might start unsupported, and then when it's appropriate, move that forearm to the quad so it is self-supported. 15 seconds. And the next exercise on our back, it's Conley's, opposite elbow to opposite knee. Very similar to that cross crunch. 5. So on our backs here, legs are straight. Don't lay on the dumbbell. Opposite elbow, opposite knee. A couple of you guys commented that you liked this one. I'm happy for you. You're trying to reach that elbow back, open the rib cage up, and then draw through. And then, as mentioned before, that right foot could be up in the air, still elongated. It makes it very hard. Push the feet out, match base, draw back in, little crunch, little exhale there, big breath in, exhale there, 20 seconds. After this next 10 seconds, we're gonna go into the squat jump with a floor touch. If you've got some low back issues or mobility issues, you might not be reaching all the way to the floor, but you are gonna touch as low as we can. So maybe it's shin height, but a little jump, a little reach. Ben will have a demo. That's it. So if you can't quite get to the floor, maybe that object you used earlier for that offset push-up comes in handy here and gives you maybe 4 to 6 inches of height. Well over halfway, 20 seconds out. And after this, we'll go back to that single arm, unsupported, bent over row. 10. 3, 2, yeah, grab your bell. It's another good side view, nice long body, lots of weight in that right foot, his front, some weight in the back as well. And then when your back feels fatigued, you can stack that forearm over top of the knee. Make sure the core is tight. If you need to as well and your back's that fatigued, stand up, shake it out for a second, drop back in when you're ready. Another 15 seconds here on the rows. And then we're on our back for Conley's. We'll switch elbows, switch legs. 8. 3, 2, 1. Same movement pattern, just the other side. There you go. And then like the cross country, we're staying off of that shoulder, off of the elbow that's on the opposite side of the movement. And it's not a full sit-up, it's not like a single leg V-up, it's just that nice big crunch across the body. Trying to find some oblique, trying to open the rib cage. 20 seconds. If this is hard, you could always bend that right knee throughout, so keep the right knee, the leg in motion crimped. If it was easy, the other foot's off the ground. It's similar to a single-sided bicycle is what we're doing. 5. Squat, jump, floor touch. 30 seconds. And as we've mentioned quite a few times now, if you're on a second story or higher and you have some neighbors below you, perhaps you need to take the jump out if you can't land softly, or if it's an odd time to work out. Try to be somewhat respectful while getting your own workout in. 10 seconds. 5. 2. We're gonna have a circle crawl, that's quad plank, some of that stuff. We're gonna go into a push-up with a pulse, we'll drop in, hit a pulse, hit a press, and then our third thing is an alternating overhead reverse lunge. You don't have to alternate, I guess, it doesn't say alternating. Med ball, I'm gonna use a med ball, something wide, so dumbbells are gonna be hard unless it's 2 dumbbells. A single bell keeps you kind of tight, shoulder mobility might be an issue, but we're gonna overhead, reverse lunge. Maybe I'm gonna alternate. What do I usually do? 3, circle crawl. Don't get dizzy, opposite arm, opposite leg, work around.
So it's the same idea as our normal crawling. But instead of going forward, backwards, or side to side, you're just staying in place and just rotating. And you can decide how far around the circle you want to go. You can do a full 360 and then back the other way. Usually it's better to switch it up a little quicker, like 180 degrees or 185 degrees maybe, even if you're feeling really crazy. Good flat back the whole time, looking down at the floor, 20 to go. And you kind of distribute in that weight, toes and hands. So your quads are definitely engaged the whole time, core is working, shoulders working. 10 seconds left, and then it's that push up with a pulse. So shoulders are warmed up, so now you're down into that push-up position, toes or knees, or you can always start with toes and then go to knees if you need to. That pulse is just a little mini rep at the bottom, maybe a half rep or a little less. Just add some extra time under tension in the bottom. Exhale every time you're coming up to the top. And if you're trying to make these harder, again, you can go from your toes or just spend more time and go really slow motion on the pulse at the bottom. But these ones should be getting pretty tough by now, whether your toes or knees. 12 seconds to go, and then you have that overhead reverse lunge coming up. 5. Watch out for ceiling and light fixtures. Just saw a nice video of at-home workout mistakes on Facebook where somebody just smashed a light over their head with some dumbbells when they were doing an overhead press. So make sure you like ceiling fans and things like that are out of the way. You can alternate with this one. If you'd rather just stick to one side and do a knee drive at the top, you can always do that too. But this one, a lot of times, will fatigue the shoulders and the upper body before it's going to fatigue the legs. Last 10, keeping that ball straight up over the head. And then we'll be back down to that circle crawl. 2, 1. That's a lot of shoulders here.
They're gonna be mad going from squat jumps to circle crawl though.
So good, smooth reps, taking your time, spending some time with that hand and foot off the floor. That's the idea here to make this more challenging, is to take slower, more drawn out steps. And good breathing. Every couple of steps you get a big exhale. 20 to go. Eight seconds, then you're down to those push-ups with the pulse. And you're definitely going to be feeling your shoulders at this point. Good core tension too, so no arching with the low back. Those hips stay up, everything moves together from the knees up to the shoulders or toes up to the shoulders if you're from your toes. 20 seconds to go, and then you'll finish out with those overhead reverse lunges. Then we'll take our break, and we just have one circuit to go after this. Last 10. 2, 1. again, weight stays on that front leg. And if you're alternating, then you're just switching which leg's got all your weight on it. And the goal is to keep the arms pretty straight up overhead too, instead of letting the weight sag down and the elbows bending a lot. You're trying to push it up towards the ceiling. Good breathing every rep on this one, 20 to go. Last 10. Three, two, one. All right, one circuit to go, 50 seconds to breathe here. So next circuit, you'll have some bicycle crunches coming up on the floor. And then you're gonna need your bench or chair or couch object for glute bridges, where you'll be here resting across that. And then also dips off the side of that chair or bench. Last time I did those, my triceps were cramping up quite a bit, so I was trying to stretch before this and see what happens.
For a couple days. 10 seconds out, guys. Again, first thing should be bicycles on your back. We've done a lot of cross-crunchy natured stuff. "30 seconds here." And after this, we'll use a couch or bench or coffee table, whatever you have access to, whatever works for you. Our chair is a little more challenging given your head needs somewhere to go. So 10 seconds out. If you don't have a very good object to use, then go ahead and go on the floor and just do some normal glute bridges. 3, 2, good set of bikes. Find yourself kind of sprawled out, arms are wide. Shoulder blades are on the item. Ben's going with a single leg glute bridge. That's solid. If you need to, you can go double leg. And again, if the hip flex is going to bug you, you keep the leg kind of extended, maybe out in space, but still focus on one leg while the other one stays down. And trying to get a nice glute squeeze at the top. So try to get the shoulders, hips, and knees all in alignment by squeezing the glutes at the top. I made sure Ben had very little transition time here, going from bench glute bridge into bench dips. So as quickly as you want to move from the glute bridge to the dips, you could.
I think I gotta tie my shoe or something.
3, 2, dips as soon as you're ready. Foot placement plays a big role in the effort here, so legs way out in front is going to be challenging. Legs tighter is not so bad. Elbows coming down to about 90 degrees as long as it feels good. Trying to focus on a nice tricep squeeze at the top, so a nice extended squeeze. And only down into a position that's comfortable through the chest and through the front of the shoulder. Back stays tight to bench. And just work that squeeze at the bottom being the top. Think about the band triceps we do in class, how we flex just a little bit at the end of the rep. Same idea here, same intent. 10 seconds. After this, roll back on the ground for bicycles. 5, 2, it's good. If a normal bicycle is hard, you could always keep the knees bent a little more, not reaching so far out in space, so the knees could stay crimped. You could also leave one leg on the ground while the other one did the motion, similar to that Conley we just finished with. Maybe 5 minutes ago. 20 seconds. After this, back on that couch or coffee table for some glute bridges. If the bridges weren't bad and you were already single leg, you always put a weight over your hip bones. Hold on to it, but it could ride about hip height. Give you a little more weight in motion there. And the full foot may maintain contact, but we're definitely driving through that heel mostly. And then again, remember trying to get the hip about shoulder and knee height at the top. So nice good squeeze, settle back in, relax, initiate the glutes, drive through the hips. 20 seconds. And we'll have our last movement, bench dips. We'll take a few seconds to rest and recover before we go into some stretching. 10. 3. Tricep dips. And again, you can vary the effort by moving the feet around a bit. After bench dips, we're gonna go to 3 different stretches. We're gonna do the pigeon stretch, a core stretch, and then a kneeling hip stretch. So finish these dips up. Take maybe 20 seconds to breathe. And we'll go through some stretches together. 15 seconds. 10. 5. 10 seconds. Pigeon stretch, you're laying down. Foot under the body of my heel into hip flexor of sorts. And then from forearms, cool. If you need to go from hands, great. If you want to sprawl out overhead, that's good too. But I don't have that mobility, so I'm going to hang out right here.
So you should be feeling a lot in the hips, on that bent leg. And just trying to relax into that. Just take deep breaths, let your body kind of sink down into the stretch. The stretching is always a good time too to get your breathing and your heart rate back down to normal, to kind of get your body out of that workout mode and start getting in that recovery mode. 10 seconds to go. 2. So I got 10 seconds, switching over to the other side. You can play around with different angles with your knee, how much that leg is rotated, how much that hip is rotated. Make sure you're not feeling a lot of strain in the knee, so make sure that feels okay and that the stretch is up and more in the hip. And then again, good deep breaths here. Okay, about 15 seconds left, and then you stay down on the floor. We're gonna go into our core stretch. It's kind of that cobra position. 5. So legs are out behind you. Pushing the chest and shoulders up away from the floor. And some different things to just be aware of. Make sure there's at least some tension in the abs where you're not feeling all the pressure in the low back. If you feel a lot in the low back, you can maybe just go to your elbows on this one. Or play around with kind of where you're keeping tension with your core. Pushing the palms down to the floor and pushing the shoulders down away from the ears too, so we're not going to do a deep shrug on this one either. And if you need to come out of it, just come out, sit the butt back a little bit if you're feeling too much, or if your back starts to get a little irritated. And do a little rotation side to side. Another 10 seconds. We're just doing one round on this one, and then we're going to a kneeling hip flexor stretch here. So if you have a pillow or something like that, a towel around you, you can use that to kneel on. So one knee down, other foot's out in front, and then we're going to find that hip position, that pelvis position. So you want to tuck the tailbone a little bit underneath. Instead of arching your low back, you're trying to tuck underneath your hips with your tailbone. And then it shouldn't take much of a lean forward here. It's a real small shift with your weight forward to feel it across the front of your down leg. So kind of top of the hip or down the quad, depending on where you're tighter. You can put your hands down on that opposite knee and just push lightly down into that knee to get some core activation. And then deep breaths here. Depending on how intense it feels, you can sink into it a little deeper for 5 or 10 seconds and pull out of it and then back in. Or you can just find a good static position and hold it. 5. 'Cons. So this will be our last 50 here, and then we'll wrap it up. So again, pushing down into that knee with the other hands if you want to. Squeezing your butt tight too, especially the down leg, squeezing that glute to make sure the pelvis stays in a good position. Staying up tall, deep breaths. Last 15 seconds. Good. Nice job, everybody. Done? Yeah? All right. Finish the workout. Have a good day today. Let me find the camera. There it is. Got it.